Beyond tasks and the web of relationships. If we compress the conditions of human life into their simplest form, they can be reduced to two things: what we have to do, and the people we know. Each day is structured by our tasks, and our sense of meaning is shaped through relationships. These two elements function as the core mechanisms that sustain us as social beings, and they serve as the most practical driving forces that keep life moving forward. But if we turn this familiar structure upside down, a very different picture emerges. A life without tasks, and a life without relationships, is often seen as a state of failure or isolation. In reality, psychological research has repeatedly shown that when people lose both purpose and connection, they experience anxiety and a deep sense of emptiness. The human brain has evolved to seek goals and bonds. This is part of our survival instinct. Yet, on closer inspection, these two elements can also appear as a form of constraint. Tasks continuously push us into motion, occupying our physical space and directing our bodies toward specific actions. Relationships, on the other hand, occupy our time, through memories of the past and expectations for the future. Within relationships, we are remembered, anticipated, and ultimately defined. In this sense, tasks and relationships act as forces that occupy space and time. Together, they draw us naturally into the three-dimensional fabric of space-time. Just as physics describes reality as a union of space and time, we experience our existence within this very structure. But here lies the irony. This same structure can prevent us from asking the most fundamental questions: who we are, and why we exist. Modern society intensifies this condition. Endless work and ever-expanding networks of relationships fill our lives without pause. As a result, instead of questioning the meaning of life, we become accustomed to preparing for the next task and the next interaction. In many ways, we begin to function like nodes within a vast network. Interestingly, recent studies suggest that the large-scale structure of the universe and the neural networks of the human brain share strikingly similar patterns. Though they exist on entirely different scales, both reveal a mysterious resonance in terms of connection and flow. Some theoretical physicists have even proposed that the universe we experience might exist within a vast boundary, perhaps even resembling the internal structure of a black hole. Such ideas invite us to step beyond the repetition of daily life and confront deeper, more fundamental questions. Yet within busy schedules and complex relationships, we rarely find the space to entertain such thoughts. However, there are moments when we temporarily escape this structure. Consider traveling alone in a foreign country, where there are no obligations and no familiar faces. In such conditions, we begin to encounter ourselves in a new way. We are no longer defined by social roles or relationships, but instead face a more fundamental sense of self. This is a kind of existential emptiness, but also the starting point of a new awareness. What matters here is not the rejection of tasks or relationships. They remain essential to human life. Rather, what is needed is a stance in which we are not completely identified with them. To act without being consumed by action. To connect with others without being defined by those connections. In other words, to maintain an inner distance, a capacity to observe. This perspective has been emphasized across many philosophical traditions, both Eastern and Western. René Descartes located certainty not in the external world, but in consciousness itself. I think, therefore I am. William James, in turn, described the self as a flowing stream of consciousness, not a fixed entity but an ongoing process. Both point toward the idea that our true nature is not found in external conditions, but in inner awareness. And so, all questions converge into one. Amid constantly changing tasks and ever-shifting relationships, what is it that does not change? From childhood to old age, our bodies and environments transform, yet there remains something that observes all these changes. The problem is that we rarely look directly at this center. Instead, we remain absorbed in the events that surround it. What we need, then, is not more tasks or more relationships, but the ability to occasionally step back and observe ourselves. To carry out tasks without being bound by them. To engage in relationships without losing ourselves within them. At that point, we stand in a unique position, within the flow of space and time, yet not entirely confined by it. And naturally, a question arises: what am I? Why do I exist? The moment this question truly emerges marks the beginning of a life that goes beyond mere survival, into an entirely new dimension of being.